Jonestown. I'm getting from you two that we have to have the increase. I'm curious, I haven't heard from Joelle in here. She voted against the increase, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd like to hear her view. I can't go to my work and say, well, they're raising my taxes. I need more money. I gotta cut my budget somewhere. Maybe you guys gotta start cutting your budget somewhere. And maybe it's not easy, but it's not easy for me to cut my budget either. If she's got a plan that I would love to hear that, because all I'm hearing is we gotta do it, we gotta do it. Someone's telling me that we don't have to do it. I'm more, because right now my vote's with her. I don't want the increase, and I will vote when it comes time to vote. People that vote this in, I am voting against, because you're voting against my interest. That's just how it has to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's a fair question. I have looked at the budget on numerous occasions, and every time you look at a budget, you see a little bit more. And when I looked at this budget, I saw many things. And I had mentioned that we are looking at doing something differently with the prison, because we do have a high population. It was built to hold X amount of people, and going to a day reporting center would have some economies of scale in that there's medical that we have to take care of. People lose their medical when they go to prison. So that's a big expense item. You have to feed and clothe, in addition to having the proper ratio of guards, and there's maintenance on the building. It's hard on the water and sewer pipes when you have all those extra prisoners. So over the long haul, there will be some savings. Now, some of the money, of course, will have to go to pay for the program. But if they are in mental health counseling or they are in drug and alcohol counseling, that becomes reimbursable. So some of that money should come back to the county. Those are some things. But in addition to that, I think this is much simpler, and I think Dan alluded to it slightly. What I'm seeing is a breakdown that our treasurer kindly provided concerning the proceeds from the sale of Cedar Haven. Had to pay for a fee to sell Cedar Haven. And from that, on December 19th, 2014, $4,062,995 was paid to the ARC. That's the annual retirement contribution. That was for 2014, and that was calculated by someone who is called an actuary. In other words, he's a professional mathematician that tells us what our obligation is. And by the way, the obligation for this retirement, believe it or not, is found initially in the Constitution of the state of Pennsylvania. And so we do have to follow that, and I think we all hold our constitutions near and dear. The next payment was on June 5th, 2015 for $3,022,220. Again, the annual retirement contribution for this year as calculated by the actuary. And in order to get us up to an acceptable level based on Standard & Poor's to address our rating, $10 million was taken from these funds to put into the pension fund that is invested and draws interest and helps to pay our people as they retire. The final expenditure, there says payables money from Fulton for the state budget impasse, $350,000. That was on August the 26th as well. My point being, when I look at this, my mind is telling me that it doesn't quite add up, because this says we have $8,139,785 as the balance from the sale of Cedar Haven. And as you've heard testimony, we have fronted $3 million minimum, not $350,000, but $3 million to cover the state. And so therefore, when that $3 million comes back, 8 plus 3 is an $11 million surplus. Now, you can say, well, no, that has to cover the funds. We are at the end of the year. If our bills are paid up to date, that means that $3 million was in the account. And you say, well, where did that come from? And so that's what I was researching and looking through my budget. And you know, it's a lot of paperwork, and you can go through it, as I said many times, and come up with things. Well, there's $342,000 came in here under miscellaneous for one line item, and I'm not quite sure what that is on revenue. And as you go back through, there are several more calculations that come in, and I see reimbursement from the court is pending. And so he doesn't have that funding either. He's waiting to get reimbursed. And the EMA program, now maybe this is different, but their EMA program fund, it said 98,000, and there was only a small amount in there. It looked like all that was pending to come in. And retirement contributions, we made $623,814 came in for reimbursement for the pensions that we paid, because again, a lot of our employees get reimbursed because these are mandated services from the state. So in this past year, I think we got $623,000, and this was printed back in October. I don't know if it's more now or not, but we got $623,814 back from the state. So I'm thinking that money was used to pay the pension payments, you know, coming up. But the bottom line is, when you go to the county code, and the county code is found in Purdon statutes, and that is the law that the county has to follow. In section 1783, it says the budget shall, not may, shall reflect as nearly as possible the estimated revenues and expenditures for the year for which it is prepared. That means we should not have an excessive amount in a reserve fund. And then my next question is, I am not sure what kind of reserve fund we actually have, because there are two kinds of reserve funds. One is capital for buildings and machinery and cars or whatever, and the other is operational, that goes directly to offset salaries and things like that. And that operational budget is the $4.5 million you heard that we borrowed for a TRAN. That's a tax revenue anticipation note. So by borrowing $4.5 million, Commissioner Ames is correct, we can, without borrowing it, we can save $25,000. So theoretically, we will need $4.5 million to carry us through the first 3 months of 2016, when indeed the real estate tax will start coming in, because the bills will go out and everybody will start paying. A lot of people take advantage of the discount system, so it's front-ended. We get that money back, and we invest it, and we take out CDs and things to draw some interest on it and set them up so it corresponds with payrolls. As the payrolls come due, then we cash in these CDs. And we have a very ample, capable staff, Treasurer Newen and Controller Metley, who watch over all of these things, and of course Jamie, our administrator. So together they make sure that the bills get paid. But on the very simplest terms, there are additional things that come in. There are insurance programs that we invest in, and to make sure we're covered. Now, you've all heard of workman's compensation. There's something called P-Comp at the state level, and then there's P-CHIP, which is the health insurance pool, and there's also P-Corp, which is the risk pool or liability pool. So all of these insurances we invest in, and it's traditional that money comes back from them as well. So as those monies come in, which can be $1 million, $1.5 million, whatever it is, that money too adds to what we have been using to make our payments and balance our budget. Some of that I found within our budget, and some of it we can't really, it's not a guarantee. It depends if you have a catastrophic loss or not. So sometimes you can't budget those things because you can't count on them, but in reality, a lot of that money comes back in. So I look at all these things and I'm thinking this $1 million increase is perhaps higher than it needs to be, much higher than it needs to be. And in fact, I really don't see a need for a tax increase, and that's where I'm coming from. I don't want to make it more complicated than my thoughts are, But you ask, and it's fair that you ask, and so I shared with you some of my reasons for that.
No, I appreciate, because they're telling us there's no choice, and you definitely have a different opinion. I'm agreeing with her, so I'm gonna vote to get her more constituents. It needs to be all Democrats. I'm normally a Republican, but
That's
I'll vote
understood.
Democrat.
That's understood. I already
I'm
know.
gonna encourage everyone
I already
to vote.
know that I can't get reelected in Lebanon County. I already know that.
Bank it.
I just wanted, Bill Miser again, I just wanted to address a few things. Number one, it's a little disheartening that Joe Ellen has different numbers than you do. Again, I work for a school district. Our business manager is required to give the budget, so it's a little disheartening that you two seem to have a different budget than Joe Ellen. That's very problematic.
It is.